Managing the holiday eating. I know it's one thing to hear me give you wisdom on how to manage your holidays and still stay on top of your weight goals, and another altogether to hear it from two people who just began their weight journey before the holiday season last year. In this episode, you will hear from Michele and Marilyn, who have undergone major weight release transformations this last year and will be sharing their wisdom on how they managed the holidays last year and still released weight, and how they plan to manage their holidays and their big families and lots of food this year as well. You will also be hearing from our wise and wonderful Coach Karen about how she manages to make her Hanukkah happy and healthy. So put down that holly and the ivy and come on in. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hello and happy holiday season to you, wherever you are and whatever you're up to in your life. I hope you are enjoying yourself. I hope you're enjoying the magic of the holidays. I hope you're enjoying the people around you. Here we are in mid-December, and this is usually when the holiday food fog begins, right? That fog of holiday food just floats on in from the coast or from the strange waters of the winter solstice and the year's end. I was not at one, but 2 holiday events this last weekend. And now that I'm an empty nester, I'm hitting more friend and family parties since both my kids are gone until almost Christmas Day. So that's how we're getting the holidays in. And but this year, when my kids are home, we are staying at home. No travel, but we are planning to explore the city of LA. It's, since the pandemic, we haven't really been out and about in our own city, and there's lots of fun stuff to do here, like museums and hikes out to the coast, which we rarely do. So we're going to do some stuff, cultural stuff and activity stuff. How about you? Are you traveling? Are you with family? Is your family far away and you're taking care of yourself or having friends over? What are you up to this holiday season? I hope that whatever you're up to, you're feeling good about it. I think the most important thing is our staying connected to ourselves, because when we're connected to ourselves in a powerful way, we are never alone and we can be our own best company even during these busy times, or not so busy times for some of us. So my well wishes go out to everybody in the community, in our wonderful global community here with the Thin Thinking. And my podcast today is brought to you by my very handy Sugar Cravings Hypnosis Session, which if you have not ever downloaded, go and grab it now. And if you have in years past, but you're like, where is that hypnosis session on sugar? You can go and sign up in the show notes and grab it again. And now, without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Marilyn and Michelle, who will tell you their shift stories quickly. I think you've heard from both of them before. I've had them both on just to speak about their weight releases, but now I'm putting them in the what do you call that? The catbird seat. They're going to be talking about um, their plans for this holiday, as well as walking you through what they did last holiday to stay healthy, healthy hacks. And even if you aren't visiting this family this year, they're talking about their families a lot, but they also have some very good tidbits, even if you are on your own or you're just, you and your partner or a few friends are getting together. And right on the heels of their interview, I join with Coach Karen for some Hanukkah coaching just to cover our bases here. So let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I have the amazing Marilyn and Michelle, two Power M's, with me today. Marilyn and Michelle both have been in the world of shifting for over a year now. And so I'm just going to introduce them both and have them tell you a little bit about them and their weight, not their weight history, but just a little bit about themselves and their journey. And then I am really happy to have them here. Marilyn and Michelle both have been shift coaches, and I consider them well on their journey of weight mastery. And so I thought instead of me just telling you uh, ideas for the holidays and how to prepare, I thought, well, why not ask two other powerful people who are on their journeys for their ideas as well? Because three heads are definitely better than one. So, Marilyn, would you please just come on and just tell us a little quickly about you and your journey of weight mastery?
Hi, everybody. I'm Marilyn. I'm coming to you from near Toronto, Canada today. And oh my goodness. So I'm going to say, I did struggle with my weight from the time I was a teenager and when I was 54, 53, somewhere around there, I had gastric bypass surgery. That was about 10 years ago. And I had a great result from that. But during the pandemic, pounds started to creep back on. And at that time, I knew a diet wasn't the answer. And I really wanted to get some habits and a lifestyle really solidified for me. And I did that a lot through Shift. Shift was a big piece of that. And so I've released about 50 pounds at this point, and this is now I consider myself maintaining. So I've been maintaining now for about roughly 4 months, and I have my days. Some days it's easy, some days it's hard to maintain. So I'm still really getting my footing with that. And I was pleased when Rita asked me to talk about the holidays because I said I don't think that is one of my strong points, but actually talking about it causes me really to reflect and be very intentional about what I'm going to be putting in place. So that's me in a nutshell at this moment in time.
Well, and Marilyn, you are always so organized. So I appreciate your being here. And I know it isn't it that the truth when you talk about it, it brings it all front of mind and then you can own it. Then
Absolutely.
Miss Michelle, how about you? Tell us a little bit about your lovely self.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I live in New York City. New York City. I'm a 68-year-old retired banker with 5 grown children and 5 grandchildren. Um, I'm Italian American, and I come from a culture of a lot of food, a lot of celebrations. Tied up, food is love, kind of thing. And the holidays have always been, a tough time of year for me as regarding my weight. I joined Shift last October, and I was very hesitant to join in October because all I could think of is, oh, shouldn't I wait until January? Because isn't that when everybody starts a diet in January? But I knew that the next shift wasn't until the spring. So if I joined in January, I would have kind of had to do it on my own for a little while and then catch up with the shift in April. And I didn't want to do that. And, my goal in joining in October was more just not to gain any weight over the holidays, considering I was, around 100 pounds overweight when I started. But I actually did lose, I think, about 15 pounds in the period between Thanksgiving and New Year's while enjoying myself, in limited ways. I love to cook and bake with my daughters, with my grandchildren, and I did it. I just didn't, indulge as much. And as of today, I am just a hair away from having lost 60 pounds.
That's amazing, Michelle. And it's amazing too, Marilyn. Both of you have really had amazing years as far as shifting. And when they say shifting, they're really just meaning they're engaged in their weight mastery journey and really working the skill set of weight mastery, which isn't about being good on a diet, but it's just about engaging this very powerful set of skills that are really associated with people who have taken weight off and kept it off long term. So, having said that, Marilyn, what's your overall, like, as you go, since started, both of you started last year in the autumn, and so you have already gone through a holiday season, and I know you've had a whole year of experience, and you're sort of newbies heading into the holidays last year. Now, a year into it, like, what's your overview of heading into the holidays? What are your overall plans to stay healthy and on track? Marilyn, I know you're maintaining, and Michelle, I know you're continuing your weight release. So I'd love to hear both perspectives. Marilyn, how about you?
Okay, so I think the most important thing for me is really reflecting and reminding myself each day why it is that it's important that I stay true to my intentions each day. Because I think we often all start the day intending to eat healthy, intending to make wise choices, intending to get that activity in. And sometimes we don't follow through on our intent. And it's not that great a feeling, but it's a really great feeling when you do fulfill your intentions and when you do stay true to what you want to do, because there's a reason that you want to do those things. So I think for me, it's really going to be really important to connect to that reason, to remind myself of that reason every single day of the holidays. I know
Mm,
it's always challenging for me when I go home because I'm out of my environment. And I don't know what it is. When I walk into my mom's house, the first thing I want to do is like open the fridge. And it's just that reaction. And I've sort of trained myself out of that a little bit, but over Christmas, I'll be there for a longer time and just staying there longer. So I think it's really connecting to those thoughts. First of all, I know we're going to get into specific strategies later, but I think reflecting and really connecting to those thoughts and connecting to the reason why. What is the whole reason that I want to be fit and live a healthy lifestyle?
Awesome. Thank you. I think you bring up a really important point is that we spend so much time during the holiday season externally focused, right? On our family, friends, getting things done, checking the lists of all the things we need to do. And it is coming back to ourselves, really being in our body, really being with our intention, our mindfulness that gives us that edge over that what we talk about in the shift a lot, self communication, like, oh, okay, what do I really want, and how do I really want to finish this day, because the days in the holidays just bleed one into the other, and it can just be this big sort of whirlwind of almost like a trance state we all end up in, where we end up January 1st feeling 10 pounds heavier, bloated, and horrible. Like you said, we do not feel good. And just setting that tension of how you want to feel at the end of the day and each day, that is super powerful. Michelle, how about you? Like, overall, what are your intentions heading into the holidays? Because I know you're in weight release mode.
My intention is to keep the treating myself with food to a minimum. There's a lot of ways to treat stuff that don't involve food. And I mean, the holidays themselves, Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, New Year's Day, Thanksgiving Day, 4 or 5 days of revelry isn't going to ruin 2 months of being more mindful. So I will contain the celebration to those days and just be my regular cautious self the other days. That's pretty much how I got through the holidays last year and lost weight. I'm looking at my calendar, and I think in the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be eating out, meaning in a restaurant or somewhere other than my own home, close to 1/2 of the time.
Wow.
We have the ballet, we have a Broadway show, we have a Christmas show, and those are all going to involve a meal in a restaurant either before or after the event. Parties, my granddaughter's birthday party. It's just one thing after the other, all happy things. And I'm not going to allow myself to not enjoy them because I'm so concerned about what I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat right and enjoy the event. Those two things are going to go hand in hand.
Right. Well, very good. I love that approach too. You are absolutely right. There's really only a few days that are the actual holidays, but and you have created a pattern of eating, on your journey that serves you, that's allowed you to release weight. And I hear what you're saying is like you can stay in that pattern, but then just adapt for those few days that are the more celebratory days,
Yes.
and that you can still live your life. I think that's the part of long-term permanent weight management. A lot of people think about dieting and they think about restricting and deprivation, but you can hear with Michele and Marilyn that they aren't depriving themselves. They're just figuring out how to have an amazing holiday and still stay in line with themselves, their intentions, and their goals. And I know, Michele, you've done a lot of work on being able to eat out and being able to be social while you're still releasing weight. So I'm going to circle back to both of you now. I'm pulling up a little cheat sheet for our friends, but I wanted to, so we talk about in the shift, the 9 skills of weight mastery, and I'm not going to get into each of the skills, but there are like 3 subgroups: mindset skills, weight management skills, and then environmental skills. So I'm going to ask my shifters, I'm just going to kind of touch upon some points like our inner coach. When we struggle with our weight, we kind of go between that inner critic and inner rebel. The inner critic beats us up because we're, never perfect on our diet. And then the rebel's like, well, since you screwed up, you might as well. And the rebel gets very loud during a holiday season. So, Marilyn, I already heard you talking about basically your inner coach, which is like being with that powerful part of you, that curious part of you, that problem solver you, and reflecting each day. When you reflect, you're reflecting on how you want to finish that day. Are there any things that you focus on, like like a vision of where you want to be January 1st, or
So one of the reasons that was really important to me to start the whole weight release journey was the amount of headspace it was occupying for me, and really kind of like a negative veil for me. And it was preventing me from, I really feel, engaging to the fullest in lives of people that I care about. So what I really want to do, so when I reflect, I think about how do I want to engage today to make my life fun and engage and grow the relationships in my life. So those are kind of important questions. They're not really weight related, but
right.
They really focus somewhere else than that. But that's all, to me, that's all really part of having a quality life. So I think about how I want to engage with people, and what do I want? So if it's a visit or a dinner out, I'm thinking, what do I want to gain from that? And it's not it's not weight. I want to gain I want to gain other things, right? And so I think about how I can concentrate on those things and make those things the focus rather than the focus of the weight. Does that kind of make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Let
meanwhile,
me,
and I want to give Michelle a shout out too, because man, like she's the queen of eating out. She does that so well. She's often comments on that in the Facebook group, and she's really good. She's got very great strategies for that. So shout out there.
yeah. Well, Marilyn, just while I have you on mindset, when things go awry, like, for instance, often we are going to not be perfect during the holidays. Let's just put it that way. I mean, and our philosophy isn't, starting over tomorrow. It's really about staying connected to yourself and
Mhm.
forgiving yourself, having compassion, learning the lesson, and then moving on. Because there's so many lessons to be learned during the holiday season if you allow them to be lessons instead of like, well, I screwed that up and I'll just start again on January 1st.
Mm.
Um, Tell us about like uh, how do you employ forgiveness, or are you employing forgiveness and the learning the lessons, as you head into the holiday season?
Yeah, so I try to get back on track right away if I've gone off. I will say that for me in particular, I don't have a really strong inner critic. I have a pretty strong rebel, but the critic is not too strong, so it's very I don't think much about the forgiveness thing, the guilt trip, that doesn't weigh me down too much.
Okay.
Um but sometimes, I mean, as soon as there comes a thought to my mind, you know what, I've made a bad decision, and if I'm halfway through a bag of chips or something like that, or whatever it is, if it occurs to me, I have a 5-second rule that I employ, and if something an action that I should be doing occurs to me, then I act on it within 5 seconds before I talk myself out of it. And sometimes that is taking the rest of that bag of chips and dumping it in the garbage. I will do that. I think, oh, that's a really good, like, I'm not even enjoying these anymore. Garbage. And I'll do it before I think, well, I could just save them for later or something like that.
Right.
So,
Well done.
yeah.
Um, Michelle, how about you and your inner coach? I mean, I know you came into this the shift very clear on your inner critic and your inner rebel, like as you head into the holiday season, um what are you doing in the morning? Are you to prepare yourself for the day, like the mindset piece of that? Like, how do you communicate with your inner coach to on a daily basis, but especially, how are you planning to use your inner coach during the holidays?
Well, I generally listen to the meditations in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
either in bed or when I'm on the exercise bike.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the time go more quickly. I do an hour every morning. I've
That's
worked up to
amazing.
that. And it just goes quickly when you're doing something else, watching the news, looking at your phone, reading. I like it because I can multitask. If you're on, going for a walk, it's hard to multitask, but you can multitask
Yeah.
on the bike. So I try to plan out my day sort of working backwards from as far as food goes,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to be making for dinner. And
Yeah.
then I base earlier choices during the day, on that, leaving enough wiggle room. Um, I My inner rebel can get a little bit wordy at times, especially on those occasions when you're eating out,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, look at all these people around you. Look at what they're eating. That woman over there is having 2 muffins, and I'm just having, dry toast and an egg. Why don't I just order a muffin? Why don't you just order a muffin? There's only one. It is very hard to get out of that mindset, but you really have to. I don't want to blow 400 calories on a muffin.
Yeah. It is, I know. And well, and you, when you live in a particular way, like I mean, again, the value you're getting is leaving that restaurant feeling good and light, and not like you just
Right,
are in a carb coma from eating the
right.
muffin. Um,
Right.
do you employ, like, how do you employ, like, if you get off track, like, let's say if you do get off track at a restaurant or, at a family event or just, on a daily basis, Michelle, foreseeing, like, you went through the holidays last year, how did you negotiate that and forgive yourself and just move on and learn the lesson, versus beating yourself up about things?
I try at least, once every hour to just stop and just think about what I've done in the past hour and what I want to do in the next hour. Break it up into segments, sort of. So,
Mm.
it doesn't even have to be food. I've been talking to this person for the past hour. I'm going to go talk to another person now. But
Mhm.
it can be food sometimes. Okay, I've eaten half of what, this meal was, half of this entree. Do I really want to eat the other half? Am I still hungry? I can tell you most times now when I'm in a restaurant, no matter what I order, whether it's something decadent or whether it's, just a piece of broiled fish, halfway through I stop and I just think about whether I want to continue to eat it. Last
Mhm.
weekend I was with some friends. We were in a French restaurant and I ordered coq au vin. It was chicken legs in like a wine sauce with mashed
Right.
potatoes in the middle. And there were 4 chicken legs. I would
Oh,
never eat
wow.
4 chicken legs. Why would I eat 4 chicken legs in a restaurant? So I did eat 2, and then I stopped and I said, okay, I had enough. That's so much protein. And I just, I packed it up to go home. And I'm telling this story because I was walking through the street and a woman came up to me and said, I'm homeless and I'm hungry. Could you buy me a meal? And I did. I bought her a meal. And then before she left, I said, this is the rest of my dinner from the restaurant. Would you like this? And she said, oh, yes, thank you. I could eat that tomorrow. We're eating for 2 people so many times. And,
Right.
it really hit me hard that she was willing to take my 2 leftover chicken legs.
I love it. She had a good meal. Nice French
Yeah,
meal. That's very cool.
yeah, yeah.
Well, so let me ask both of you, and whoever would like to answer first can. Through the holidays, there's usually stress. How are you managing that? Talk to me about self-care and stress, like taking breaks, making sure you're taking care of yourself, getting away, like if you're with a bunch of people, if you need to take breaks from them, like how, what are some practices that you have in place for stress management, crowd management, being busy, all of that to help yourself through the holidays?
I think one of the things for me, I think, is to, like you said, Rita, take breaks and kind of have planned. So what will I do when there's a break? And sometimes every room is full. Um, but there's always outdoors, and sometimes there's kids playing outdoors. And so I will take part in the tobogganing or go outside and run around playing duck duck goose or whatever's going on, or um just take a walk down the road and back. That is a good, it gets you the fresh air, it gets you the connection with nature. The places that I visit are all in the country, very country areas, and so it's really nice to be outside in that way. So when there's not a free room to go into just to take a moment to collect myself, then there's always a walk, which could be 30 minutes, 10 minutes, doesn't have to be long, sometimes just a little bit, just kind of get reconnected with myself.
Yeah, I mean, I find that that's a huge thing when well, especially when you're not in your own home and you're at somebody's house and it is the holidays and we are always with people. And if we don't get that break, our brain becomes overstimulated. It's so much easier to eat, to just even just to avoid people. It's just like we're eating or we're in the kitchen hiding from people and we end up eating. So you're absolutely right. Like getting out of the house, taking that walk, connecting with your body, uh, getting that fresh breath of air, but also just being outside and away from people for that. Yeah, and you're right, Marilyn. It only takes 10 minutes to kind of reset your brain so that then you can go back in and refocus But if your relatives are especially high maintenance, maybe that half hour is more needed. Michelle, how about you? What about stress management? Because I know you have a very big Italian family, and I, I imagine that's lots of noise and lots of love and lots of.
Very hectic. When I can sit and play with my grandchildren, I find it very calming and so much fun, to see things through a child's eyes. I don't really feel this. There's only one person in my family, not my immediate family, who I feel like I have to get away from sometimes. Let's put it this way: we're not friends on Facebook, because if we were, we would probably not be friends in real life. so, he's the only one that I have to be a little wary of, but we're handling it. I do try to schedule during the holidays. I know it sounds very indulgent, but either a manicure and a pedicure or a massage.
That's great.
We're going away this weekend, actually, and to a hotel in Connecticut. And I am scheduling. I have a massage scheduled for Monday morning, actually, in the spa. So that'll be good. I love it. Once in a while,
I like that idea.
I hadn't done it for a while, mainly because I was so self-conscious about my body. Is somebody going to be grossed out when they have to massage me? Isn't it ridiculous? I mean, that's their job, right? But
yeah, no, I know. I felt the same way, Michelle. I totally understand. Yeah. I mean, it's that crazy mindset that we have when we struggle with our weight. But good for you. I'm excited for you. That will be fun. But that's an important point. I remember I was with my daughter, and when I'm with my daughter, we're on a daughter sort of get together. We'll always get a pedicure, and I'm usually I will get a little stressed out, like if I'm driving or doing something in a place that isn't where I live. I mean, isn't it funny? I can drive in LA and feel super relaxed, but I am but when I'm driving on foreign roads, or foreign meaning like just not my turf, I get a little stressed, and going for that pedicure is always just like, oh, so grounding, and it connects me to my body too, because you're feeling your feet. So, but what, like, now when you're with your family, do you have like a room you can escape to, or like how do you get away from everybody, or just take some time and connect with yourself during those times? Is there anything that you're doing?
No, really not possible. I mean, my daughter has the biggest house, so we generally go to her house on holidays. But I'm not sleeping over there. It's just for the day. And every room is filled. There's a lot of people. There's usually at least 25 people.
Oh my goodness. All right. But you said, so it sounds like you play with your grandchildren though, and that kind of chills you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Marilyn, you too, you play with the kids. Like, it sounds like that's kind of calming too.
Yeah, for sure. That can be a nice piece of it.
Yeah. So let's move now. Like, thank you for the mindset piece. And again, everybody, as you head into your holidays, I think if you haven't thought about that, think about those times that you can sit with yourself at the beginning of the day, like Marilyn and Michelle, and just kind of plan your day out. And you don't have to stick to everything, but it's just that intentional. And it's like you're being your own best friend. Oh, let's have a good day today. Let's finish this day, and be mindful, as if you are heading out to big group gatherings, how you can take some breaks and make sure that you're, not getting overstimulated, which then can lead to over holiday eating. So how about food and exercise throughout the holidays? You guys, any tips or ideas for our listeners that you're going to employ over the holiday season with regards to food in general and movement? Marilyn, any?
Yeah, so last year, so when I go away, so I go up to my mom's, let's say for 3 or 4 days, and different branches of the family come up. sometimes in rotation. Sometimes we're there all together in one day. We're 30 some when we get, I think I forget what we are now. It's like 35 or something if most
Oh,
of us are
wow.
there. Yeah. So one of the things that I did was I got my sister-in-law because I knew she would like to walk too, and I just kind of said to her, let's kind of plan and we'll go for a walk each day. So I sort of set that into a schedule, got myself a walking buddy for when I was up there.
Mm.
And so I think that's something that I'll do again, or find somebody to do that with. And I think that's also something that you can do just to see, like, again, to strengthen the relationships in your life, and to have a fun time over the holidays. Just, it doesn't always have to be that walking buddy. Just find somebody, and one of my nieces or something like that, and say, hey, let's just head out and go for a bit of a walk or do something, so that I can do that. But the other thing that I do is I tend to wake up very early, and usually even I can beat the kids awake sometimes, maybe not on Christmas Day, but most days. And so I often will do something then. Last year I was doing yoga, so I took my yoga mat, but you don't even have to do that. And just kind of, and I'm certainly not an expert or anything, but just kind of some movement, and just kind of get some movement in the morning. And I often try to do 20 minutes before I even actually leave the bed. I do just movement, stretching, and some ab exercises and feet in the air. And I don't even know if any of them have names or qualify as exercise, but it is movement, it is activity. So some of that in bed before I get up, so that no matter what happens, I've done something in that day. And then something a little bit more intentional or structured, maybe like yoga, or just some sort of fitness moves. And then having a walking buddy or an activity buddy, and then engaging with the kids, especially if there's tobogganing or something going on, and being part of that. So that's kind of my plan as far as activity goes, and movement. Those are my big things for there.
How about you, Michelle? How about you and movement over the holidays? I know you get up and bike every day on your stationary bike. Is that still in the works?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. It's working, so I think I'm gonna continue to do that. Doesn't mean I won't go for a walk now and then. And I also do sometimes walking aerobics with YouTube videos. I do some of Karen's Qigong. I always forget how to say
Uh-huh.
it, but it's great. There's one
Qigong.
that's for stress relief that I really like. It's maybe a 15-minute one. It's really very helpful.
Is that
I
on
do that
YouTube?
Yes, it is. It's a free one on
Okay.
YouTube.
Oh, cool. I'll
And
have to check that out.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, for our listeners, I mean, I think what you can hear in their speaking is that exercise is just something that not only, is part of their weight mastery plan, but Marilyn and Michelle, obviously it's connecting you to yourself and part of that mindfulness piece too. Um, I love that idea of Marilyn of having a buddy. I know in our monthly mastery group, we have that 15-day exercise challenge through the holidays, which I love. I mean, that's the way why I have it. It's like, okay, well, if I'm in a challenge, I'm going to be doing it. But
That was what kept me going last year.
yeah, that helps. So maybe having a challenge with other people in your family or your friend group can be nice. You can connect over uh, just texting each other. I know we have little mini text groups in our membership, but also if and on some of those days that are so crazy, too crazy to go and do any formal exercise, I love the idea of you guys, um, moving, like just turning on music and dancing, especially during the holiday season with kids. If you have kids around the house, they love to get in and dance. And my husband showed me this video of me and my daughter. I'd forgotten that we had done this. We had this dance move that we had like choreographed. It was like 5 years ago. I looked a lot younger. My hair was longer, but It was so goofy. Like she and I were just being super goofy, but we looked like we thought we were professional dancers. We were doing these dance moves, but it was during the holidays, right by our tree. So that's also because we are indoors. And I know a lot of people live in environments that aren't always friendly to going out and walking and exercising. Sometimes if snowstorms or rainstorms are going on, but you can put on that music and move your body. So I highly recommend that. What about food, you guys? Like, what are some holiday ideas as far as, enjoying your holidays, not feeling deprived, but staying healthy? What are some ideas that you can share that you're going to be using this holiday season? Marilyn?
Yeah, I think moderation, because
Mhm.
I know there's going to be pumpkin pie there, and it's not something I have every day of the year, but I would, so I will definitely have pumpkin pie.
Mhm.
What I will not do is have pumpkin pie all day long and double helpings of it. That's that sort of thing. So just try to to rein it in and be reasonable. And I'll probably have a small piece, and I do find that satisfying. So that's one thing. I think also I think bringing food there. So for the times that aren't the big holiday things, like just because I'm a guest at my mom's for a few days, I think I find it useful if I take the protein snacks that I know I like. My
Mm,
mom has protein things, but they're not always things that I find are great for me. So I take responsibility. I, take my own my cottage cheese and my Greek yogurt and the things that I know I like to make for myself, so that I'll have that sort of the protein um, mini meals of the day sort of thing. So I be responsible for taking those. And then for things like on the bigger days, my contributions, I don't cook, I don't bake, so I look for things to buy. And one thing like shrimp rings, anything like that, I mean, you can eat a lot of shrimp for very few calories if you like
right.
that. So that's something that I like to contribute. A lot of people do like that, and it's one thing that you can definitely indulge in, and it's lots of protein if that's
Mm,
something that you like. So
I
yeah,
love that
and I know
idea.
and I know for when people are in, I'm not in the workplace anymore, but I know sometimes I'll go to gatherings that are where there's lots of food sitting out, for you to help yourself, and
Mm,
those sort of buffet type things, or informal casual sort of appetizers lying around. And just I know there's that expectation because people are offering you things. And one of the greatest tricks I've heard there from one of my fellow shifters was, oh wow, that looks so good, and you get into a discussion on, oh, do you make that every year or whatever? But um, just give me, I want to wash my hands before I take anything, and then by the time you've gone and washed your hands, nobody's there, really cajoling you to take it. People have moved on, and so that's kind of a way to get out of that, or get out of too much of that, because I think part of it is we talk ourselves into, we have to do this in order to, it's a relationship thing almost, and it doesn't have to be
yeah.
that way. So
Yeah, I love that tip. And I do think managing other people's expectations of us is so critical. And I almost feel like for those of you who are listening to Marilyn, it even helps to practice what people are going to say to you and then practice saying it back before you go so you aren't caught up in the moment, like speechless or unable to articulate it. Um, Oh, thank you. That looks so amazing. What did you do? Just practice that in the car on the way there. I'm going to wash my hands. I never heard the wash the hand thing. So that's a good one. Um, do you think, like, as far as like refined carbs, do you have any things that work really well for you, like not eating something on an empty stomach, or does that not necessarily bother you? Like some people find that like they try to avoid that so that they aren't trigger to eat more?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I do kind of take a bit of a break just because I need to make the room between, because remember I've had the gastric bypass surgery, so
Yes,
that's
that's
I'm
correct.
a little bit of a different boat than maybe some people. Um, so I tend to take, after I've eaten the meal, then I do tend to take a bit of a break before the dessert. But yeah, I know it's preferable to eat a protein and I will get kind of lightheaded too if I eat too much sort of sugary carb type thing without having had a protein around the same time. So
Yeah, that I mean that is helpful. Michelle, how about you and food over the holidays? Because I know again you're a cook, so you do a lot of cooking, and how are you managing that for the cooks out there in our audience? Like, what are
Um,
some
I'm
thoughts?
I always make a tray of roasted vegetables, which first of all make a beautiful
mm,
presentation. Um, because I find that there's always what I call the nibbles that are out when you first get to an event like that. You know, the cook is in the kitchen making the main courses, and out on the table are the cheeses and crackers, and you know, you could eat your entire day's calories just picking on that stuff. But like
Yeah.
Marilyn, I like to have a tray of you know, cold shrimp with cocktail sauce and roasted vegetables, and try to stay away from the high calorie little things that are going to set you up to fail before you even before you even get going. I also decide on certain days that I'm not in weight loss mode today. I'm in maintenance mode today, and I will change
Mhm.
my app to reflect that. That instead of
Mm,
the calories, it adds in the extra 500 or 600 calories, and there's a nice large number there. And you're working with a lot more food than you might eat on a normal day, and you're doing it, you know, knowing that the next day you could go right back to taking those calories out again, and your week is not lost by that one day of enjoying yourself. It's
right.
all
I
the
think
math is very comforting to me, and it's proven to be much more accurate than I would ever have believed.
mhm.
right. Yeah. Michelle's just like mentioning the apps that you track with and you can set your weight goals. And I think that's true that I think so much with dieting, we get into this like all or nothing. So we're either at, this very deprived amount of food, or it's, the sky's the limit. We're either on or off.
About it.
And what you're talking about is a very mindful boundary, which is basically your body's energy needs. So you aren't deficiting to create a weight release, but you are not going over your body's energy needs. And I have this great metaphor, which is like filling a car gas tank with gas, and then the gas just falls all over the pavement of the gas station. That's kind of like when we're eating at that holiday eating, where we're just so mindless and we're just going over what our body needs. But our bodies do burn energy, and you can find that balance for yourself where it's not restrictive, but you can enjoy yourself. So and Michelle just uses that to get really clear, which is awesome.
Mm, yeah.
Um, I have Michelle, for you, I did want to ask, like with refined carbohydrates, I know for a lot of people, I'm just mentioning this because I think something happens over the holidays because we have a lot more refined carbohydrates around us. So if we're eating more of these things, it can trigger our brain, make us want more food, be thinking about food more, kind of set up what I like to call that carb zombie. Um, are you doing anything are you being mindful, or do you have any tips about managing that so that you're not, getting hooked into that sort of mindless carb eating cycle?
I find that I can't eat um, anything sweet before lunchtime. Let's say, and you know, I could eat a piece of fruit, but I can't. I'm not a person that could eat like just a muffin or just a donut for breakfast. It just throws me right off. I also can't, even have one glass of wine on an empty stomach. It's got to be, once I've started eating. Those are the two things that, it's not that they trigger me to eat more. It's that they make me feel so unwell. I just feel lightheaded and kind of like anxious. It gives me like an anxious feeling. I don't know if that's a blood sugar swing. It may well be, but it definitely affects how I feel. Once I've, had a protein for breakfast and a protein for lunch, then I can eat a little sweet something later in the day without it really affecting me. I also find that when I look at my metrics for the day of the different, the carbs and the protein, if I stay within what the app is recommending, if the carbs are around 150, even 160, I'm doing fine as long as they're healthy carbs, and not a bunch of junk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a very good metric. I mean, to think about. One thing I would say is if you are, to our listeners out there, a couple of things I would add to this is if I feel like I'm, in a setting where I'm eating more carbohydrates than I normally do, and I do get a little more thinking about food, a little more, it turns on my food brain, my thinking about food brain. I will do a reset. I'll just do a couple of days of really healthy eating. And that usually brings me back to balance and refocuses me. I've been managing my weight for 28 years. I'm pretty clear when that part of my brain and body are kind of going off course, and I just go, okay, time to do a reset. And that helps me a lot to just turn down the food noise that can get much louder over the holiday seasons. Once again, we're going to talk about the environment in a moment, but just physiologically and mentally, it helps me manage any food noise that may pop up because I've been overindulging in particular things. And another thing I practice that we talk about in the shift is 0 to 10 eating. Like 0 is starving, 10 is Thanksgiving stuffed full, which hopefully none of us will be on coming up in the holiday season. But I, so, laying on the couch too full to move, really being mindful, like both Marilyn and Michelle have mentioned, just like stopping even after, eating. And Coach Karen, who did talk to me a little bit about Hanukkah, and her recording will be coming up after this one. She said she puts her fork down and chews, and, it's just slows down the eating process so that, especially when you're with a bunch of people and you're talking, the research shows that we eat, 250 or more calories when we're eating with a bunch of other people, just to stay mindful and connected to yourself. So I always, ask myself as I'm eating, what hunger number am I at? And try to stop at that 5 or 6, slow myself down and make sure that I stop, especially since we're not in control of a lot of the food we're at over the holidays. So we might not know the ingredients or what it is, but if we can stop when we've had enough, that usually is a good indication of when we should stop. There is like a breath that you take when you've had enough. The body just naturally does it, and most of us aren't in tune with that breath, and we just keep eating past that. But there is a natural breath our body does do that's like, wow, in the middle of a meal when we've, the body's physically had enough. And so maybe think about that too, and just think about like finding that breath, and then you can maybe negotiate with yourself to put the fork down and take a moment and make sure, tune in with your body. But on that note, I would like to move on to the environment, because I think a lot of people, even though it's very obvious our environment, especially in the holidays, is filled with stuff, we don't think about managing our environment. We just kind of end up being the victim of our environment over the holidays. So, and in the shift, we talk about the environment skills a lot. And one of those skills as stimulus control. And I wanted to talk about these three different controls really quickly, and then just ask Marilyn and Michele about their management system. But, there's willpower, and then there's rule control, and then there's stimulus control. Those are the three controls we have around food. Now, willpower is very limited. It's a very limited resource, and most people will notice that their willpower is gone around 4 o'clock, and that's when all of our impulse control is gone. And that's why most people don't struggle with breakfast or lunch, but they start struggling later in the day. So willpower cannot be relied upon to get you through the holidays. Sorry, just not going to happen. And that's why Marilyn and Michele have been talking about all these other mental tactics that they use. Now, another thing, and this is what I'm going to ask you to, is do you have any inner rules? Like, there's the second thing is called rule control, where, I might have a rule where I only have one drink of alcohol at a holiday party. That's my rule. I've made it for me. Nobody's telling me to do it, but I know that works really good for me. So that's my rule. Or my rule might be only one refined carbohydrate per day over the holiday, like one holiday, treat or what have you. Because I also know that if I eat two, that again, that food noise starts to get a little louder. So that might be an inner rule. And then there's just actual stimulus control. And stimulus control is a powerful tool because if it isn't in your environment, or if it isn't in your eyesight, chances are you're not going to think about it. Every time you walk by that tray of peppermint bark, you have to have a conversation with it, and that wears you down over time, right? Oh, no, I'm not going to have the peppermint bark this time. No, I'm not going to have the peppermint bark this time. And then, you get worn down. The peppermint bark talks to you. Come on, just have a piece, and then we're in the peppermint bark. So those are the three different controls. Marilyn, how about you? Like, how are you managing your environment? I know your home environment, and then when you go to your mom's, because that sounds like a whole different ballpark.
Yeah, so I mean, I won't bring anything special into the house, into my home over Christmas necessarily. In fact, I bought some turtles recently. Some turtle packages were on sale, and I thought, oh, those would be good gifts to take to people's homes and stuff like that. So I gave one away when I visited friends on the weekend, but and I had another couple, and we drove home. And when we were unpacking the car, I thought, I'm going to leave those other gift boxes in the car, because if I take them up to our apartment, I will be thinking, you know what? It won't. Maybe we should have one or two or
Right,
whatever,
right,
right?
right.
So that was one strategy, just leaving the things where they are not in my environment, and then
Yeah.
they will be in the car when I drive to someone's home to take them to them, whatever. Then a couple of rules I have, they've really become part of who I am, and they are everyday rules, but I think they're especially important around the holidays. And that is a strategy when I go through, when you walk the gauntlet, you're checking out at Walmart or Winners or TJ Maxx or whatever it is. You have to walk by so many candy and special treats and holiday um, you know, coffees or hot chocolate mixes, that sort of thing. So, but I'm not a person who buys anything from those impulse lines. That's something that I've adopted in my weight maintenance. And the other thing for me is if I'm on a road trip and there's a stop at a gas station, that's another thing that I just don't buy the chocolate bars type of thing. There is I know of one healthy snack there that I will get if I have to, but that's something that I think of. And I know the most healthy fast food place to stop at as well. So I've got all that. And as far as the stimulus control, when I'm somewhere where there's lots of things around, I will make a habit of getting things off the counter, even if it's not my home, get things off the counter and into the cupboard where I don't see them. And I
Yes.
don't have to have that conversation every time I pass by, because you're right. Willpower is a time limited strategy. At some point, it's going to give out on you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and in someday, like I feel like we have a willpower up until about the 17th of December, and then the stimulus of the holiday, and then it's all gone until probably about January 3rd. Like because we're so overstimulated, our brains are so overstimulated. And that's why we do need that, like those tools that you both were talking about earlier about connecting to ourselves each day, because that at least that think through of your day is your best bet of harnessing willpower later in the day. Michelle, how about you? How do you manage your environment during, or, in general, but also how are you planning to manage it over the holidays?
Well, I'm a numbers person. So on a regular day, like today, I leave myself 100 to 150 calories for a treat at the end of the day, something with no nutritional value that just makes me feel happy. Either it's
Right,
something ice cream, usually, like a little ice cream sandwich is 140 calories.
right,
A little Trader Joe's finger-sized ice cream cone is 90 calories, and I like those very much. I have one almost every night. The holidays are a different story because, I'm giving myself a cushion, a maintenance cushion. So let's say that cushion is 500 calories.
hmm,
Coincidentally or not, the average dessert is probably about 500 calories if you had an entire dessert. So my
right,
rule for myself on Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever is, okay, I'm going over tonight over what I would normally eat. But even if I taste 4 or 5 desserts, right,
hmm,
in total, they're not going to comprise more than one full serving. So that means a
right.
couple of bites each, not a whole piece of pumpkin pie and a whole piece of apple pie, which is what I used to do in the past. It's what everyone else is doing too, and then complaining that that they're stuffed. So I also have a rule that 5 fruits and vegetables, no matter what, whether
Oh,
it's a
wow.
feast day or a regular day, 5 fruits and vegetables, just because we should all be doing that. And of course, it makes you more full, so you're not as vulnerable. And
Yeah.
definitely not, on a holiday, you can't help it. The food is out, it's a beautiful display of food. But when you're home, put that stuff away. Even if there's a box of crackers on the counter, I'm so much more likely to take one than to go looking in the cabinet to see where they are. We're very visual people.
Absolutely. And they when they're out on the counter, I know it's so easy over the holiday season for, us to get those little things from neighbors, and then we just shove it on the counter because we don't know where else to put it. And then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then before you know it, you have a whole counter full of food calling your name. Something you mentioned, Michelle, that I wanted to mention to our listeners, if you've been listening to me for a while, you know about the 3 bite rule, but the 3 bite rule is a really great inner rule where uh, you
Absolutely.
you have those 3 bites of the dessert or the decadent food, and that's really enough for our typically our mouth experience goes from 90% down to 20% within 3 bites. So after those 3 bites, often we go a little mindless and aren't really focused on the taste or the experience of the food. Some foods, we can keep going and still experience it. But what Michelle was talking about is kind of like that 3 bites is of something really decadent. It's probably, 100 calories or something, but it's just that you get that experience without having to eat the whole thing. And
Right.
often, if you really tune in, when you eat the whole thing, it's very hard to tune in. I mean, when I work with smokers, they experience like the first couple of puffs of a cigarette, but the rest is very mindless. And it's interesting when you're eating food too, it can get mindless really quickly. So if you allow yourself those wonderful few bites and totally, experience it, then usually you're happy to move on, especially if you've fed yourself well and nourished yourself. Um, now, the other thing I wanted to ask you guys about, the last thing, was support. How do you get support for your, I mean, how are you giving or getting support over the holiday season? Marilyn,
Well,
you
I
said have those people that you maybe walk with and such?
Yeah, I often talk about it with people that I walk with for sure. My husband happens to be a great support, and he if I want him to help with me with something, I will ask him, and he will deliver on that, whether it's making something in a certain way or reminding me about something. He's very good at that. Um, and also, I do message back and forth with other person who has like goals of me in terms of weight lifestyle, life weight management, etc. So that's also a little piece that I've been adding recently, and I think that'll be useful over the holidays too.
Oh, very nice. Um, how about you, Michelle?
Um, just about everyone in my orbit has been extremely supportive. My kids have been very supportive. My husband is absolutely the best. He needed to lose some weight too, and he has, in fact, lost about 25 pounds.
That's
We don't have
great.
the junk food in the house anymore, and he needed to lose weight. He wants to lose a few more. I laugh now because he gets on the scale every morning, which he never did before, and tells me the number, up to the decimal point. And 2 mornings ago, I saw him. My son brought home bagels, and I watched
Uh-huh.
in utter fascination as my husband cut the bagel and pulled out the inside of it. I have never seen him do that before, ever. He's so much more conscious. He'll ask me how many calories are in something. It's really great. My friends have four very close female friends that I actually went to high school with, and we meet every month in the city for dinner. They're all very thin. And they have just been, one of them said to me the other day, "Oh my God, look at that tiny waist. I can't believe it. You look great." And they've been doing the three right bite rule forever. We order one dessert for four people and everyone takes a couple of bites. It's nothing new to them. And, they leave food on their plate and they're not dieting. This is how people behave, when they're conscious.
Right. Very cool. I'm glad you have support, both of you. I think those of you who don't feel like you're supported, uh, try your best to get support maybe from people that aren't as obvious as they could be. If they aren't in your household, maybe your friends, you can talk to them or text them throughout the holidays and get a support line going on. Um, Marilyn, I know you mentioned something about dealing with those people who kind of hover over you, and I guess they're not necessarily saboteurs but do you have any saboteurs in your orbit, Marilyn? And do you have any tips for managing those people who, I mean, I love that tip you already had. Go wash your hands, make a big noise, circle back. That's a good one. Um, or Michelle, you guys have any other, management
One
tools?
thing, something actually happened today. My sister came by and she came in with a bakery box. And I said, "What's that?" There's a new place that opened. It's called Paris Baguette. I believe it's a chain
Oh my gosh,
of
there's one 2 blocks
expensive,
away from me. And they've got like baguettes with
extremely
sticky rice in the
expensive.
middle of
I
them.
mean, right. There were two donuts, cream donut, some kind of a glazed donut. And she said, "Oh, I got this one for you. It's a croissant with brie in it." And I said, "Monica, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm not going to eat that." He said, "Oh, you lost so much weight. You can have it." And I said, I really don't want it. So, someone else ate the cream donut. I'm sure right now my son is eating the other donut. And the little croissant with the brie is going in the freezer. I mean, I just can't throw it out. I mean, he told me those three pieces were $16 together. Is that
Oh wow.
crazy? You make a
Yeah.
whole meal for. But I was a little annoyed with her. I really was. Like, why are you doing this?
People forget. I think you have to remind them, and they
Right.
do see you. I mean, when you release 60 pounds, you look so small to them.
Yeah.
I've had people who have released significant amounts of weight, but they still have weight to release. But people will say, stop dieting or stop losing weight. You look sick. But, they still are, their BMI is still in the overweight range. So people get they see you get smaller and they worry too. Sometimes they are concerned because their primal mind is seeing you shrink, and we're like all pack animals and we're like, oh my goodness, something's happening. But you might get that a lot, Michele, this year because I mean, both of you, because you've released significant amounts of weight and people might be like, oh, you've lost so much weight, so you might as well enjoy yourself. Marilyn, have you gotten some of that or not so much?
Uh, no, but I can see that tendency definitely that, people kind of see, oh, like you've been so successful, what's wrong with living it up? Uh,
Mm,
and that sort of thing. But no, I haven't, not in that way. My tendency really more is to, more often I get conversations about how I've got where I am and how I managed to stay there, and what are the keys to your success and those sorts of things. And I love talking about the strategies that have worked for me, or things that worked at one time that I've revamped or revised to make them continue to work for me now, because I feel it's like it's an ongoing process. What worked for me a year ago is not exactly the same thing that may work for me now in certain areas. So you have to be ready to revise that. So I love talking about it with people. And yeah, lots of my friends ask me about that. Some most with the intent that they would like to do part of it themselves, or they're figuring out what they want to do or something like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well, and that's a really important point that you make, which is that other people, when you release weight and you're on a powerful journey like you both are, that it's not like you're on a diet, but you're really making changes in yourself and changing yourself from the inside out. People watch you, and you're helping them make that decision, whether they voice it or not. You're modeling amazing behavior for them. And because everybody who goes through the holidays, I mean, unless they are like have always managed their weight and never had a problem, struggles. And so even though you might see them eating and looking like they're enjoying themselves, a lot of them are going to go home and feel bad and feel like, why did I do that? Why did I drink too much? Why did I eat too much? And they're looking at you like, wow, I wish I could manage things like they do. They aren't, like I know, Michele, you were saying like you sometimes look at those people and go like, look, they're ordering 2 muffins, but you also know they're ordering 2 muffins and going home and feeling like they're in a carb coma. So, you know, you guys are fearless leaders leading yourself, but also others through the holidays, even if they aren't voicing that they're following you. And for you listeners out there as well, really, I think identity has so much to do. I always talk about identity, and I think of yourself as a powerful, healthy person leading yourself through the holidays, rather than trying to survive the holidays and this weight struggle or trying to survive. It's like, no, you are powerful. You can lead yourself one day at a time, just like Marilyn and Michele have laid out so many great strategies for you. Um, and also touching base with that gratitude and remembering the meaning of the holidays, like Marilyn was saying earlier, and you can tell Michele with her family, it's like it's the people in your life, and really going to those holiday events, really looking forward to the connecting with others, rather than connecting with a bunch of food, you know. So I want to thank
Yeah.
both of
And
you,
it's
Marilyn and
okay to
Michele.
be imperfect too. I just want to say that it's not,
Yes.
I know we've come up with all the great, strategies and so forth, but yeah, it's not, it's for me it's not 100%. There's times when things don't work and I have to revise, or I just don't manage to follow through with what I planned. But I'm okay with being imperfect. It's a journey, and I carry on. So if somebody's listening out there is thinking, oh, I could never do that every time or be that perfect, that's okay. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, it ain't
Right.
about perfection. And Michelle, do you have any words for anybody, out there that, you know, last words?
Um, you can do this. So that's my my words for people. A year ago, if you had told me I would have been down almost 60 pounds this year, I would have been very skeptical. I just didn't think it was possible. My wish was to quote unquote lose a few pounds, as we've always said over the years. We need to lose a few pounds. Well, it's a lot more than a few pounds, and I'm as surprised as anyone. And it hasn't really felt unnatural or difficult. It hasn't
Right.
felt difficult, which is really amazing. There's so much support and camaraderie in the group, and a different way my thinking has gone to 68 years of struggle. I can't believe it because I've been overweight since I'm a child.
Yeah, no, and it is like for both of you, thank you for coming on today, but it's also just, I'm so proud to see the journeys, the powerful journeys you both have been on. And when you can see and hear in their, both of their speakings, like when you show up for yourself with your powerful mind, there's nothing you can't accomplish. So believe in yourself this holiday season. Take good care of yourself, stay safe, but be kind to yourself and compassionate and have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you, Marilyn and Michelle, for being with us
Thank
today. Hey, Karen, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about Hanukkah and how to have a healthy Hanukkah over the holiday season.
My pleasure.
So, for our listeners who are not aware of the tradition of Hanukkah, just tell us a little bit about the Hanukkah. The season is called the Holiday of Light, right?
Festival of Light, yes.
Thank you.
Um, it is it takes place over 8 nights, and for some reason, some people think that children get 8 nights of presents and they don't, or at least not in my household growing up. I got one present and then whatever change was in my father's pockets the next night. Um, yeah. So it is a festival, it's a commemorating a battle. Oh, several actually. There was a period of time where the Greeks were the power in the the region of the Middle East, and they were trying to Hellenize everybody who didn't believe their own religion. And there, the Jews said, "Heck no." And we're not going to put up with this. And there were lots of battles, and there's Judah Maccabee and the whole family. And there was a desecration of the temple with, I don't remember exactly how they did it, but and there was they had to the Maccabees or the Jews were needed oil to reconsecrate, and they just had a little bit. And instead of burning for one night, which was the amount of oil they thought they had, the miracle was that it burned for 8 nights.
I love
As
it.
far as Judaism in general, it's not a particularly significant holiday, unlike the High Holy Days, which are earlier in the year, but it's got some heavy competition for children in December, so it's gotten bigger and bigger.
Right. It's become uh, the winter
Yeah,
holiday focus. Okay.
right.
So tell me, thank you for that explanation. So tell me traditionally or perennially, what is the biggest challenge, food wise and health wise as you go in and, as one goes into the Hanukkah season, what are the biggest challenges?
Well, there's one particular food tradition that comes out of this whole thing with oil, and that is one eats food that has been fried in oil. For most
Mm,
people, that means potato pancakes, or the word in, I don't know if it's Hebrew or Yiddish, is latkes, Latkes, but it's also donuts. And
oh,
there's another like fried donuts. And the word for all of this food is sufganiot. So the fried foods for Hanukkah. And our family, my grandmother, my mother, my sister has now taken on the mantle of the latkes fryer. I can do it, but I hate the way it makes my house smell.
Mm,
So we always have potato pancakes, and they're generally served with sour cream
hmm.
and or applesauce, whichever you
Okay.
prefer. I like the sour cream. And our meal is generally, I make a brisket, and
Mhm.
every year I say, does anyone want anything else? No, make your brisket. So I have to make my brisket. Sometimes there's matzo ball soup. None of those things are traditional. The only thing that is the tradition is the fried food. And I try
Mhm.
to eat as little of that as possible. So how do I approach this food? Oh, and then someone always brings dessert, but I don't eat dessert.
Do you guys get together 8 nights, or
No,
is it
no,
traditionally
no,
just
no, no,
one
no.
big family feast that you would
Yes.
sit down to? Okay.
And that is, but that, again, that's just my family. Not everybody does it that way. Some people just have a small gathering, and that's it. The thing that everyone does is they light their candles every night
Hmm.
to signify the oil. And some people actually have oil lamps, but ours are just
Right.
candles, Hanukkah candles.
But out in the zeitgeist in your community, in the Jewish community, would you say that having, like, aside from this, like, probably most families would have one meal or one traditional meal, and uh, would there be food hovering around the house, like traditional holiday food, that would be a
The
challenge
leftovers.
otherwise?
It's the
Leftovers,
leftovers.
leftovers, right?
Yeah, yeah, and we do our family, our family gets together as a group Thanksgiving. It's
Mhm.
this year it's at my niece's house, and then Hanukkah. And there are some family members who will go off because of the faith of other family members to celebrate Christmas, but not my immediate family. I mean, not my husband and me, I should say. My sons with their wives' families. But for me, what I do, it's the same thing as Thanksgiving. We all have we come with little containers to avoid having a multitude of the host having too much leftovers.
Okay.
So, but the way I approach a holiday meal, and it doesn't matter which one it is, or it could be
Okay.
any gathering meal, is the same way whether it's Hanukkah, whether it's a dinner party at a friend's house, it's the same thing. What is my energy allowance for the day or the week, planning ahead? It's, can I do a little bit more exercise this week? Not just to burn a few more calories, but to keep my mind, when I exercise regularly, my mind is in a good shift place for everything, for food, for alcohol, for snacking. It's just part of the whole thing for me. Exercise is a mood booster, and it just keeps me on a good track. And I think I
Mm.
mentioned to you, I'd been traveling recently, and I was doing a lot of walking, but it was hard to do my general routines just because of lack of space. And then I came home and I was so jet lagged, and I was stresses from other things about that holiday that I'm just getting back into my exercise routine.
Mhm.
Yesterday, today, I've got another class when we finish up right now. So those are the things that I do to sort of bubble wrap myself in a way
Yeah.
from the onslaught of the food and everything
Mhm.
else that goes with it. And again, it's not just the holiday meals, but then people, neighbors bringing over holiday gifts, and people are baking,
Mhm.
and I always want to say thank you, but no, but I just hand it off to my husband. And
And he takes care of it for you.
right, yeah, well, he's a foot taller than I am. He's got a
I
lot more
know.
latitude or longitude in his cooking.
I love it. So, well, that sounds really good. Now, like, for the fried foods, then you're taking 3 bites, or you're doing a latke or two, and
Yeah,
you
I'll
put the
I'll
magic
take
circle around it.
I'll take a one or two small ones and just a
Mhm.
little bit of sour cream on
Well, of
top.
course.
And I'll mostly be having vegetables and the brisket, the protein.
Yeah. Yeah. So you are living your life and living your holidays. You aren't feeling deprived necessarily, you know. you're thriving through the Hanukkah holiday and all of these situations.
Yeah, and as you know, we've discussed this before. Some of it is just so automatic at this point. It's
Yeah,
that sorry for the digging on my computer. Let me
that's
see if
okay.
it's off the sound. Um, it's just automatic
Yeah,
that
I know you've been doing this a number of years, so
that
it's not what you do, it's who you are, Karen.
okay. That's one way of putting it. I mean, you know, I'm far from perfect, but
But no, you can see in your speaking, you're very mindful. And this mindfulness is automatic mindfulness, meaning you're having to pay attention to it. You are paying attention to it, but it doesn't feel it's part of who you are to think it through and to think through the holiday and to think through what you're doing. Uh,
it's rare to get through a holiday meal where I think, oh my God, I'm so full. I just don't do that anymore. I've had enough to eat. I can
yeah.
just stop.
Do you have any counseling on that? Like when because when you're sitting down with a bunch of people who are your family and you're conversing, a lot of times it's really hard to know, oh, I've had enough, because other people are getting seconds, other people are overeating. I think so. How do you, like, as you go into the meal, like stay present, or is it just something over the years that you've just gotten used to that just enough point and just have learned to stop?
For me, some of it is not even a mindset. It's because I've gotten used to eating a little bit less, measuring my portions. It's that I don't want more because I just can't fit anything else.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
um, but again, it's not because I'm stuffed. I don't mean it that way. It's, I don't want to make myself uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah, because you're tuned in. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the distinction is over time when you are more mindful, you are also showing up for yourself because you're saying, well, why would I eat more? Because then I'm going to feel gross and full, and I don't want to do that to myself.
Right. And this, and I can always have more of this tomorrow because there are
Yes.
leftovers.
There are the 8 days of leftovers. I love it. Well, that is any final holiday words for our audience.
You don't need to feel deprived during the holidays. You can enjoy yourself. You can eat good food, just not too much of it.
Very good. Wise, wise words. Well, Karen, have a wonderful holiday season with your family. And I hope you enjoy your latkes. I have a friend who has a latke palooza every year, and he makes um, not just the regular traditional latkes, he makes curried latkes and zucchini latkes, and it just like probably
Does he do
about
sweet potato?
he does sweet potato. He does so it's like a smorgasbord of different latkes, and so yeah, it's Lakapalooza. So anyway,
I'm
I
sorry,
love it.
smorgasbord of latkes. You sort of like you moved Denmark into
Oh, sorry. I know
Eastern
you were
Europe.
just in Norway, so you're like that is a very clear. Okay, yes, a plethora, a feast of different types of
Yes, but
latkes.
potato pancakes are not just traditional Jewish cooking because it's
Yeah.
basically wherever the Jewish population has lived. So Russia has its version, Poland has its version,
Yes.
Germany. It's all it's
Yes. Yes. The fried potato has a great tradition amongst all human cultures. So, well, thank you for your wisdom. And again, have a wonderful holiday season. Uh,
and
thank
same
you.
to you and yours.
Thank you, Michele and Marilyn and Coach Karen. I hope you found their advice helpful. And please, please, please grab your sugar hypnosis session from the show notes if you haven't already. And for goodness sake, you better not pout. You better not cry. You better not show up for yourself this holiday season, and I'm telling you why. Then Thinking will be back here next week. And remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it, and I will be back with you next week to really dive into the holidays. You want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release? Head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking: Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss.